Hi there, boys and girls. Happy Thursday. Today we are moving and grooving on to lesson 8, titled Constellations and Stars of our solar system unit. Let's take a look at our focus today. Today, students will read informational text, so we're making sure that we know that that is the text that is going to be nonfiction about constellations, and answer comprehension questions by finding evidence in the text. Let's take a peek at our constellation vocabulary. Constellation are stars that form a pattern or shape that looks like things, such as a person, an object, or an animal as seen from Earth. Plural you'll see are constellations. Next one, Ursa Major. That is the constellation named by Ptolemy that is also called Big Bear. It includes the Big Dipper. Then we've got Ursa Minor, the constellation made of 7 stars named by Ptolemy that is also called the Little Bear. It is the Little Dipper. So major, we always think of something that is bigger, so we think of the Big Bear, and minor is something that is smaller, so we think of the Little Bear. And lastly, we have the word Polaris. That is the North Star, which is the brightest star at the end of the handle of Ursa Minor / the Little Dipper, that stays in the same place in the night sky all year long. So we're going to be looking for these words today as you are listening to me read. Before we get into it, we're just going to take a look at a little checklist of some of the things that will remind us and review about what we've kind of talked about before you guys took our little break from school, and what we talked about this week. So remember, our sun is the closest star. Stars are made from hot gases, mostly hydrogen and helium. Stars are different sizes. Our sun is a medium-sized star. Stars have different colors. Our sun is a yellow star. Stars are different ages. A galaxy is a large collection of stars, dust, and gas held together by gravity. We live in the Milky Way galaxy. The Milky Way galaxy is shaped like a spiral, and galaxies have many different shapes, like elliptical and irregular. Okay, today we are going to be simply listening. All right. We have a couple other vocab words here before we get a little further. The other ones were just kind of to start us off. Quickly, we'll go through them. We have a ladle, which is a spoon or dipper with a long handle and a cup-like end used for serving liquids. You will probably have seen this when somebody's giving you soup. Magnetic, exerting a strong attractive force. Navigate, to find one's way. Orient, to identify your position in relation to things around you. And orienteering, a modern sporting competition in which participants orient their movements by compass or GPS, which stands for Global Positioning System, to accomplish a set of goals. All right, let's go ahead. Give me a moment to scroll into our first slide here. Okay. Now I'm going to try my best to zoom in on the picture so you guys can see it a little bit better once I'm done reading. Okay. It's time for us to head back home to planet Earth. From our home, we can see glimpses of space by looking up into the sky. After our journey, perhaps you won't see the stars as just little twinkling lights in the sky anymore. Now you know they are like our sun, the star that is the center of our solar system. You know that up close, stars are really massive powerhouses of super hot gas. So you can see here the sun in relation to Earth. Looking up at the night sky. The next time you look up into the night sky, perhaps you will study the stars in a new way. They all look about the same size from where you stand on Earth, but you know they're not. They are different sizes. Some are brighter than others, and some are hotter than others. Maybe you once thought the stars in the sky were pretty close together, but after taking a ride in our special classroom spaceship, you remember that even though stars look close together in the sky, they are really very, very, very far apart. It's true that stars cluster together to form galaxies. Even when they are clustered together, most stars are still incredibly far apart from other stars in the same galaxy. And they are even farther apart from the stars of other galaxies. There's a lot of space in space. The Andromeda Galaxy. Look up at the sky and try to count the stars. There are a lot of them. On a clear evening, depending on where you are, you can see many of the 2,000 or so stars that can be seen from Earth with the naked eye. All the stars you see are in our own Milky Way galaxy. You can't see individual stars from other galaxies without the use of a telescope, but looking between the stars of our galaxy, you may be able to see the distant Andromeda Galaxy, if it's a very dark night and you know just where to look. For thousands and thousands and thousands of years, people have been looking up at the night sky, just like you. Human beings have tried to understand the location of the stars and predict their positions each night in the sky. In the grand scheme of the universe, it is human nature for us to try to understand why things are the way they are and where we fit in. Night sky showing constellations. Since ancient times, people have grouped the stars into patterns called constellations. Ancient civilizations saw these constellations as figures of people, animals, and objects. They played connect the dots with the stars by drawing imaginary lines between them to form pictures in the sky. Just like this photo right here. These pictures often told familiar mythological stories about heroes like the Greek hunter Orion, who stands ready with his shield to fight a bull. They were about mythological animals like Pegasus, the beautiful winged horse, and they were about animals such as Canis Major and Canis Minor. Canis means dog in Latin, and major means greater. If Canis Major is commonly known as the great dog, it's easy to see who might be following behind. In the stories about Orion, the great hunter, these two constellations are Orion's faithful hunting dogs, forever following at the heels of their master as they move through the night sky. The very brightest star in our sky, Sirius, is in the constellation Canis Major and is often called the dog star. Sirius is a very large star compared to our sun and one of the closest stars to our solar system, only a little over 8.5 light years away. People who live in Earth's northern hemisphere see a different set of constellations than people in Earth's southern hemisphere do. Only people in the northern hemisphere can see those constellations above Earth's North Pole. Only people in the southern hemisphere can see those above Earth's South Pole. However, the constellations above Earth's equator can be seen from both hemispheres. Maybe someday you'll cross the equator, travel to another part of the world, and experience the constellations of the night sky from another point of view. Polaris and the Big and Little Dippers. Since ancient times, people have noticed that the stars in the sky and the familiar constellations move in a predictable and interesting way. All of the stars in the sky move in a circular pattern around one point. In the northern hemisphere, the half of planet Earth north of the equator, there's a star located very near that point in the sky that we call the North Star, or Polaris. Even though all the rest of the stars in the sky change their positions throughout the night, the North Star is always located almost directly north. Take a quick peek at our photo here so we can see Little Dipper in relation to Polaris and Big Dipper's down here. Knowing this has helped sailors and travelers in the northern hemisphere for thousands of years to orient themselves, or to basically find their location. Long before modern navigational tools like compasses and GPS, were invented, sailors relied on the star Polaris. Technology has advanced a great deal since those days, so much so that some people like to participate in a modern sporting competition known as orienteering, where they use magnetic compasses and GPS to orient themselves and accomplish a task or goal. You might remember from an earlier lesson that the Earth has a North Pole and a South Pole. These poles act like a magnet. A magnetic compass works because of the Earth's magnetic field. A GPS is a modern device that uses man-made satellites orbiting the Earth to find and tell your position on Earth. Two patterns of stars you may already be familiar with that are visible in the northern hemisphere are the Big Dipper and the Little Dipper. Each one looks like a ladle in the sky. The Big Dipper and the Little Dipper are not the official names of the constellations themselves, but are part of two very famous larger constellations. The Big Dipper is a group of stars that is part of the constellation Ursa Major, which means Greater Bear in Latin. The Little Dipper is a smaller group of stars that is part of the constellation Ursa Minor. Suppose it is a dark, starry night and you are trying to find your way through the countryside. You can look up into the night sky and find the Little Dipper. The last star on its handle is the brightest star in the constellation. You just heard about this star named Polaris. It is called Polaris because it is almost directly above the Earth's North Pole. Once you find Polaris, you can find north simply by facing this star. When you are facing north, your back is to the south. Your right side is to the east, and your left side is to the west. Now all you have to do is decide which direction to go. Sometimes the Big Dipper is easier to see than the Little Dipper. You can also use the Big Dipper to find the North Star. Just line up the two stars, called the pointer stars, opposite the handle of the Big Dipper's bowl and draw a line through them. The line points up out of the bowl of the Big Dipper right to the North Star on the tip of the Little Dipper's handle. And if you've got the North Star, Polaris, to point you in the right direction, who needs a GPS? People have been using the stars to navigate or find their way for thousands of years. People who live in the northern hemisphere today can still see these and other constellations when they look up in the night sky at night. The runaway slaves before the time of the U.S. Civil War saw the ladle in the sky and sang a song telling them to follow the drinking gourd north to freedom. Throughout history, people in different cultures have looked up at the Big Dipper and have seen other pictures besides the famous water dipper. In one Greek myth or story about Ursa Major, the jealous goddess Hera, wife of Zeus, turns a maiden named Callisto into a bear. Then, to protect Callisto the bear, Zeus placed her in the sky as a constellation. An Arabian myth describes a coffin that is followed by three mourners. One Native American group saw a bear being followed by three hunters, one of them carrying the pan in which to cook the bear meat. The Norse people of Northern Europe saw Odin's wagon. Constellations of the Southern Hemisphere skies. But what do you see if you live in the Southern Hemisphere? People who live south of the equator in places like Chile, South Africa, and Australia see a different set of constellations than people in the Northern Hemisphere in places like the United States, Canada, Norway, Turkey, and China. On the other side of the world, as they rotate around the South Pole, people look out into the stars of the Milky Way galaxy from a different direction than people north of the equator do. You can see, once again, lovely picture here. You might be surprised to learn that there is no star directly over the South Pole. There is no South Star around which the rest of the stars circle, but there is a small constellation named Octans very close by that circles around the spot where a South Star would be if there was one, if it was there. Octans resembles an octant, an early instrument used for navigation. Not too far away is another constellation familiar to stargazers in the Southern Hemisphere, the Southern Cross. Night sky showing constellations. Let's review the constellations that we have been talking about. The constellations you've heard about today are just a few of the 88 constellations astronomers have identified in Earth's skies. Next time you have a chance to enjoy a dark, starlit night, gaze up into the sky and see if you can find some familiar constellations. If not, have some fun and make up some constellations and stories of your own. Maybe someday you'll cross the equator, travel to another part of the world, and experience the constellations of the night sky from another point of view. All right, boys and girls, I know that was kind of a long one, but I want you to make sure that when you get to your questions today, I want you to make sure that you are focusing on going back into the story. I will have all those pictures and the text up also on your assignment today, so you can go back to look. You don't have to go back through the whole video. But I do want you to also make sure in your short answer today, and I know this is a little bit of a review, so I'm not going to go crazy going over it, but I want you to try to use your conjunctions, okay? Today's focus was going to be on the conjunction so, but if you can also go back, you don't have to use so. We're just going to just a quick reminder, okay, with conjunctions. Remember, we always look and we see that picture of the glue bottle, okay? Conjunctions are those words that connect other words or groups of words together. Okay, we have the conjunction and. It connects words or groups of words. It means plus, along with, or also. And then we've also used the conjunction but. It's used to connect groups of words. It signals that something is different, such as a different idea will come after but. The conjunction because, this is a big one we've used, is used to mean for this reason and signals the answer to a why question. It signals the cause of something. And the almost the opposite of our because conjunction is the conjunction so means then this happened and signals the effect in a cause and effect sentence. And lastly, the conjunction or signals a choice, possibility, or alternative. I am going to post this page as well so we remember all of the different conjunctions we have gone over so far. So if you need something to go back and remind yourself when you are answering your short answer question today, to make sure that you're adding your conjunction, I will have this up for you to reference. All right, boys and girls, thank you so much for listening. I know I've been on here for a while today because today's reading was a bit lengthy, but I hope that we're all trying our best and doing whatever we can right now to make sure that our learning hasn't stopped and that we're trying to keep pushing through. I miss all of your faces so much. I cannot believe we've been out of school now for like, oh my goodness, almost 2.5 weeks. But a lot of you guys are doing so great on here online, and you're taking responsibility for yourselves. And I'm really, really, really proud of a lot of you. Thank you so much. You guys have a good rest of your day.